Knock, knock.
Who's there,
It's
Aaron?
there.
Bruce, shut the fuck up and just go already.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I was talking about Street Fighter V and how upon launch it was like a broken mess of a game, which is
Sorry, Bruce.
true.
Can we back
but
up for a second? Just 1 second here, my friend. 1 second. We have been doing this for like a month and a half now. We fucking can't come up with an opening to save our lives.
We don't need an opening.
No, it's great. I always I do something fun with the edits all the time. Like I listen to the point and then I'm like, this is where we're gonna enter it, and then I just delete everything else we had been talking about before that.
I still haven't watched a single video to see what you do to these things, and I don't know if I want to.
Wow.
Oh, he's good.
I'm
He's
hurt.
good.
I record them, I talk, I live the moment. I don't need to watch it.
I do watch it. That's how I edit.
Well, yeah, you have to. Doesn't mean I have to.
Oh my god. So,
Boom, there's an
so-
intro.
Previously on Dialog Trees, I was talking about Street Fighter V and how when it launched, it was a broken mess of a game, which is absolutely true. But I also said that there was a controversy because there was a handful of characters which were on disc DLC, and that was like sparked outrage because the game launched with so few characters, and then like that, like this, like say it was like 12 characters and then 12 were locked as DLC that people found by data mining. Half of that's correct, but Street Fighter V came out in 2016, was broken as fuck, but the character lock was on Street Fighter Cross Tekken. And that whole thing was they released the game and then 6 months later released it on Vita, and Vita had exclusive or timed exclusive characters. So game launched 6 months later, Vita gets it. Then 6 months later again, those timed exclusive characters come to console. Only those 12 characters were on the disc of console that came out 6 months prior to the Vita release. Not only that, but people were able to hack and data mine the game and unlock them and play online with them. And we're not talking about just like random throwaway characters. Like from Tekken, there was Brian Fury, who's a pretty, notable character, and fucking Blanca from Street Fighter, the green electrical dude. Like, how do you lock Blanca behind on-disc DLC? So that got me thinking about how games have a history of exclusivity. And like growing up, my sister got me into fighting games because she used to play like Soul Blade in the arcade and Marvel vs. Capcom, and then she got me into like Soul Calibur and MVC3 and 2. And I used to think that's just how things were done. Like Soul Calibur 2 had Link, Heihachi, and Spawn, and they were all console exclusive. And I was like, yeah, that's how it works. And then Soul Calibur 4 had like Vader and Yoda, and it's like, well, yeah, like you just have that. And now I'm kind of realizing that's absolute bullshit.
Excuse me, we had Star Killer in Soul Calibur 4
yes,
as well.
But Star Killer was not a console exclusive. Everybody got Star Killer.
Yeah, well, that's because Star Killer was on literally every console.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so were Yoda and Vader. Anyway, I've realized how much of like bullshit that is, and especially with some of the shit we're seeing come out now, where like Call of Duty has the PlayStation advantage, where even though it's a cross-plat game, Cold War is, PlayStation characters like have bonus XP and level up faster, even though you can play with your homies on PC.
They also get one certain mode of zombies exclusive for a year. A fucking year. By the time that comes out, everyone will have moved on to the next game. So like, what's even the point? Just fucking leave it on PlayStation.
Yeah. And that's what I want to talk about is like what like the history of exclusivity and then timed exclusivity and like just broken things like that, because I think there is a line that like what's good and bad, but then there is some a little bit of blurring and gray in there, because nobody's going to complain that Mario and Link aren't on any other console but Nintendo.
I think tons of people would bitch about that.
I mean, fair, but then like the question is like, because Sakurai hates us.
Okay, that checks out.
It's in Smash. The thing I was thinking, in Smash.
Yeah, the thing I was thinking was how, like, one of the Tomb Raider games was a timed exclusive, and to me that's a very different thing than like having a timed exclusive. Very different than just an always exclusive, because you're just kind of teasing things to people. Or if you have the same game but one mode is exclusive on something, or like have Spider-Man's only on the Avengers PS4 and 5.
I think it was only the PS5 one.
It feels more transparent than... It feels like a very like nakedly greedy decision to make something a timed exclusive, and it seems like it's never seemed justified to me as a consumer as to why you'd make something a timed exclusive, other than to screw people over and make whatever money you have arranged in a deal with the publisher. Like, I'm glad that it eventually is making it to more audiences, but it almost seems more like a slap in the face than anything else.
Yeah, like there's no justifying it. It's always been like with Call of Duty, it's whoever throws the most money at them, you get exclusivity for like that whole generation, pretty much.
Especially when there's nothing like, I can understand the fighting game version, because like the fighting game version at least has like that, ooh, like yeah, I get to play with Yoda, whereas the other guys get Darth Vader. Like, I get to play with Spawn, but they get Link. Like, it kind of was like a playful way of like competing brands and stuff. When it's just like literally like the PlayStation advantage versus the nothing.
No advantage.
Nothing on the other side.
See, as I've gotten more into like FGC, like fighting games as esports, that's kind of what made me realize I'd like take a step back of also exclusivity is bullshit, because like if a character or a mode is only on one console, that definitely right off the bat makes one console unviable for tournament scene, because like if
fighting games are made with tournament scene in mind, though, I would argue it's a very small number. I would argue that most are going for casual. Tekken is, I'd give that.
Yeah, the developer of Tekken literally goes to EVO every year, which is the premier fighting game tournament, goes to EVO every year, competes, and does a panel. The creator of Street Fighter does that as well, and Tekken and Street Fighter are arguably the like biggest franchises. But as a whole, like fighting games are PvP game. Like nobody plays a fighting game for like against bots, because how a bot reacts is very different than a human.
I do in Mortal Kombat.
But tournament play is different from just you and a couple of friends hanging out. And I would argue it's always been more focused on the casual side of let's have a couple friends over and play this. That's what Smash is geared to. That's what Smash is geared towards. I would argue that's what Mortal Kombat is geared towards. I would argue that's what Soul Calibur is geared towards. Like, I would argue it's a very small number.
I'm not saying there's not like fighting games guided towards casual fans, but when you have to look at like the developer support, like Sakurai and Team Sora are never gonna support the Smash scene as a competitive scene, and like we've seen that #free melee, and Soul Calibur has had a little bit of a stage presence, but like a fighting game is like the fighting games that last. If you look at anything by like Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, or Marvel vs. Capcom, which are usually the mainstays of EVO and CEO, those games have huge developer support. They're throwing money in. They're doing cash prizes. They are giving people like in-depth update data. So like when Tekken gets an update, they give you the frame data that changes because it's geared towards a pro scene, but you don't have a pro scene without casuals, right? Like you have to have casual players in order to get pros and to get an audience. And if you are creating a game that has different modes and different characters on different consoles, then either you're completely cutting out a potential part of the community, or what's the point of putting that character in? Because if you're not going to cut out an entire part of the community, that character's pointless because half the people can't play them. So then you're not going to see them in tournament. And anybody who puts time into there is not going to feel welcome in your community.
Yeah, I mean, totally get that.
Like esports wasn't a thing. Esports wasn't as big of a thing outside of like RTS and StarCraft and stuff 20 years ago when like Soul Calibur 2 came out. Nowadays, like I think it would be game suicide to do that.
Oh, 100%. Like you couldn't do that.
There, for example, like a MOBA doing this, because that's like one thing that I wonder if we've ever seen the example taken in anything other than like fighting games for competitive timed exclusivity. Like fighting games and first-person shooters are the only ones that I can think of that have pulled this trick before.
Yeah, for like modes or characters or stuff, it's been those, but
I don't play MOBAs, but most MOBAs I know of are like PC games, right? Like most big esports are on a like most big esports are on a PC where you don't have to worry about the console. But most fighting games are played on console.
Yeah.
And not that you can't on PC, it's just like when Evo or Evo Japan or CEO or Capcom World Cup happen, they're usually playing on a console. And like I'm sure if MOBAs were bigger on console, they would absolutely try and do some exclusivity thing, even if it was like skins. But it's never taken off. Like they tried putting Overwatch on console and that kind of failed. Because it's not competitive. It's not competitively viable to play with a controller.
No, but game's still fairly
casually
popular on console. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and
going back to the main point, I definitely agree that like it, on a theoretical basis, just hamstrings your community by creating this whole sense of like console exclusivity versus one or another.
Yeah.
Like, ideally, you want everybody on a level playing field. I wonder, like, was there ever a situation in which this was justified? Like, where it made sense to have, like, console exclusive?
Think of it. Other than Link for Soul Calibur 2 for Nintendo. That's the only one.
Yeah. Well, like with Soul Calibur 2, they picked Heihachi. Originally, they wanted Dante from Devil May Cry, but they couldn't get him. So then they picked Heihachi from Tekken because Tekken had a big, I think up to that point had been a PlayStation exclusive because like Xbox hadn't had the history to have like Tekken 1 through 4.
PlayStation's always been more like PlayStation's always had a more of a presence in like Japanese markets, and Tekken's like 110% Japanese franchise.
Yeah, Tekken is Korean and Pakistani. The Pakistanis are amazing. They're fucking hidden bosses at Tekken, but like even when they re-released Soul Calibur 2, they couldn't get the rights to Link again. So they only gave Spawn and Heihachi for everybody. And that blows my mind because Nintendo, the fucking company who worked their asses off to get Solid Snake back for Ultimate. Like, you motherfuckers.
Hey, put your fucking characters in our game. No, we don't want to. Put it in. Okay. Hey, can we take your character? Fuck off. Get the fuck out of here. Who the fuck do you think you are?
Right.
Yeah. Excuse me, we're only in casual fighting games. I don't want any of this Soul Calibur shit. It's like Soul Calibur's casual fighting game. Get out of here. Sakurai.
I should also add with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, PlayStation 3 also got 5 exclusive characters. They got Cole from Infamous. You know what? Again, kind of sucks. it's a console exclusive game. Sure, I can understand their logic behind it, but still shitty. They got Turo and Kuro, or Toro and Kuro, which are Japanese PlayStation mascots. Again, same thing. But these two are kind of egregious. They got shitty box art Mega Man, and they got Pac-Man. Exclusive PlayStation, no Xbox. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize shitty box art Mega Man was a PlayStation mascot. Where's he in Battle Royale?
It honestly just, like, I look back to this and I'm just like Xbox has never had the same policy as Sony when it comes to grabbing exclusives like this, and it seems like the strategy did not pay off for them in most console generations, where it was 360 and PS3 going at it, or Xbox One and PlayStation 4 going at it. Like, they didn't have the aggressive exclusive strategy, which I think is a failing on the part of Microsoft. But then you have the stuff like the PlayStation Advantage for Call of Duty, and it's like, it's just kind of scummy.
Microsoft did do that in the 360 era. They had exclusive shit for Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops. That's when they got all the maps, like, a month early, I think.
Oh, they got them early. I remember.
Yeah, that. And then eventually,
with Black Ops.
With PS4, Sony's like, "Fuck that shit. Here's money. Give us a month early," and that just continued. I think Microsoft was like, "Ah, fuck it. We don't care." Here's
the important question, though, when it comes to the specific Call of Duty example. Does the same advantage that they're talking about for PlayStation owners, does that transfer into any of the game modes for Call of Duty Warzone? Because I think that's where the actual focus of the Call of Duty franchise is now. Not Cold War. It's on Warzone.
For Cold War, it's like this one zombies mode. I don't even know what it is. So it's not really that big of a deal, but it's still shitty that, like, a whole mode is locked out for a year. That by the time you get it, you're not playing that game anymore.
No. The advantage, though, is, like, the advantage, as they call it, is the leveling up faster and the experience boosts. I don't know if that's for Cold War or for Warzone. I don't know.
I think that's just Cold War.
But the fact, yeah, because, like, the zombie thing, like, people jump to the new Call of Duty every year.
Yep.
Zombies is what makes people come back. I last week, 2 weeks ago, I bought Black Ops 3. This cost me $80 for Black Ops 3 and a zombies map pack. Fucking bullshit. This game's so old, and it still cost me $80 for just so I could play zombies with some homies. And it's like, don't get me wrong, a lot of fun. Should it be $80 though? Because they don't make the physical discs anymore, and all the places I found were selling physicals for $40 with the DLC, but they were all out of stock because nobody has discs anymore. So you have to buy it digital, and it's full price.
But again, like, I think that, like, what we're seeing with the Call of Duty franchise is that I don't think that they give a shit anymore about the physical releases or the new games coming out, because we're moving into that example into, like, the online service. And I feel like the online service is where the exclusivity idea is going to end, because the most successful online service games in the world are those with as broad a market as possible.
Yep.
Like, get, like, PC, mobile, all of that thrown in. Like, you don't have... In Genshin Impact, for example, you don't have, as far as I know, you don't have special advantages to playing on a PC versus on your phone, beyond just having a better setup for controls. And that game is one of the best, like, most popular games of 2020 because it was so widespread. I think when those games really take off, the whole idea of, like, making anything exclusive is going to end.
Just a quick fuck you to Bruce. I love how Genshin Impact is on mobile, but still not on Switch.
Yeah. I'm not going to play it anyway. Fuck it. But, I mean, I have PS4 now. I could play it, but I'm not going to. And I think you're right. Like, mobile gaming is the future. Because, we're privileged in North America, where, you know, like, buying a new console every 5 to 10 years is kind of trivial, or building a PC out of 3-year-old parts is doable. But, like, the biggest player base for Genshin Impact or Fortnite or, like, PUBG is the mobile market in China and India. Like, those are each countries with over 1 billion people, and their mobile market's huge because nobody has computers or consoles, but cell phones are crazy because they're so densely packed countries. Cell phone data is dirt cheap. So people playing on mobile is huge. And that's, Braden's right. That's where you need to focus. And the whole online service, being able to make a like a viable alternative to console play is important, because would you rather the North American and European audience who's going to, pick up your game, play it for a month, and then never come back, or the audience from Asia, who there's more of them and they're going to repetitively play that game?
It's against your interest to include anything that separates that player community, which is why I think that like this console generation is going to be the last we see of like console exclusives. On PC, I think that we're going to keep seeing it, but we'll never see the big hits be exclusives. Like, we'll never see Genshin Impacts be like an Epic Games Store exclusive or what have you.
Yeah, what if it starts turning into like country exclusives? So like India and China bonus. Get 2 free characters with this game and 1,000 gems.
I mean, that is in a way already prevalent though, with like online servers being located in specific countries and like high ping counts if you're anywhere outside of that. Like, that's already in existence.
Yeah, I would even say that is in existence, because there and has been, because there's always like region locked games. We've started to move away from it, but like Mother 3 still has never been localized for North America. That's a region exclusive game that exists.
3, just let it go, man. It's never happening.
We'll shit on Nintendo soon, don't you worry. We'll have a whole episode of shitting on Nintendo.
Braden, you just said you think console exclusives are going to disappear. Is that excluding Nintendo from the exclusives? Because they'll never give that shit up. They would rather never release another game than let somebody else release it.
Here's the thing. When we talk about the trends that the industry is making, we have to exclude Nintendo, because Nintendo will never, ever pick up on what the rest of the industry is doing. They spend their time in the corner doing their own shit, and sometimes they walk out and they're like, look, guys, what I made. And we all go crazy for it. But like, they don't care about what the rest of the room is up to.
They just fill a fucking board with ideas, take a dart, and just fucking chuck it. And it's like, okay, we're doing that one.
Yeah.
I was gonna say they're a kid eating paint in the corner, but sometimes they splash some and it comes out as a Jackson Pollock.
Like, if we are Batman, they are our like Lucius Fox. They're just up to stuff. We don't ask them to do it. They just sometimes come over and they're like, "Hey, you want to drive this cool car?" And we're like, "Yeah." Hey, do you want to?
You want a spaceship?
Do you want to have this little stick?
I think Lucius Fox was cooler.
Do you want to have this little stick that you waggle around at your TV, pretending it's a sword? Not really. Oh, well, that's a shame. We're gonna do it twice.
We're gonna do it twice, and then everybody else is gonna try and do it too.
Yeah. And just take out the stick.
Rest in peace, Milo.
Rest in peace. What was the PlayStation camera again? Was it just called the PlayStation camera?
PlayStation.
Yeah, they still support it.
Oh man.
I think now it's just PlayStation camera, but before it was the PlayStation Eye.
Do you guys remember when the Wii Plus adapter was made, so you finally could get one-to-one connection after it was promised with the first Wii remote? Now it's like, okay, now you'll plug in the adapter and you'll actually get one-to-one controller reading.
Give us money and it'll work better
actually.
Now. Yeah. So you can play such classics as Skyward Sword and
Super Mario Odyssey 2.
Galaxy 2.
Right, thank you.
Get your head out of your fucking ass.
Super Mario Odyssey DLC exclusive to the Wii. Not the Wii U, not the Switch.
But the Wii Store is taken down.
Such a Nintendo thing.
Nintendo doesn't give a shit. They do what they want. No, yeah, so like the other thing that comes to mind with exclusives is like the Epic Game Store, because the Epic Store is like, you know, as far as timed exclusives go, they're pretty infamous at this point for that.
That's like a whole other ballpark of fucking exclusivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, with the Wii Shop channel, how that got taken down, and now like WiiWare you can't get more, and how Nintendo is just kind of awful at like
Online.
having games be accessible, because like everybody's clamoring for a GameCube or a Game Boy or Game Boy Color Virtual Console, and they refuse. And they're also heavily against ROMs, even though ROMs are legal. #free melee. But it's like, how are we supposed to uphold this artistic medium and play old games?
Well, because you're supposed to not play old games, you play the new ones. Maybe that's why they make the same games over and over again, is because they don't want you to realize that there's a back catalog. It's Super Mario Odyssey and
Raiden?
Nothing else.
Lock your goddamn door. Miyamoto's coming for you. You've cracked the code.
Nintendo is requesting your location.
Forget that he made those games that you're playing now. Oh man, that would explain a lot of things as far as the Legend of Zelda franchise is concerned.
What if they're just like me and they release it and then like later like, this is kind of crap, I don't want people to know about this?
Honestly, I can relate if that's the case. Like, I just want to brush this under the rug and have nobody question it ever again.
Like, I go back to my projects from school, I'm like, this is actual like horse shit. I don't want to show anyone this.
All right, shut up about Majora's Mask. It's just shut up, all right? We get it. You liked it. It's never happening again. Never, ever happening again.
You guys really, like talking to you guys for Dialog Trees really makes me regret my sleeve tattoo. And I fucking hate you guys for it. It's like, I love it. It's so good. I love my sleeve. I love my tattoos. And then I talk to you guys, it's like, this was dumb. I'm just a billboard.
Hey, I mean, it's cool, but you can only keep it till March 31st. Like, 2 more months to go. Hashtag
so
free
does that
Bruce's
mean
arm.
I have to flay? Does that mean I have to flay my skin or just cut it off? And if I cut it off, can I get a cool bionic commando arm?
Miyamoto's coming and he's deciding what happens to your arm.
He might go ahead and give you a cool Johnny Silverhand, but in that case, you have to like make an original arrangement with Keanu Reeves. Yeah,
he'll be in every Smash game from now on.
He's a Wii remote to my socket. And then a power glove on top.
Cyborg with like a switch as the head.
Oh god. But seriously, like, I know, Braden, you wanted to talk about good old games and how they are a library for old games. So let's go back to my segue. Hey.
So yes, it's me now. Yeah, basically just like when we're talking about video game preservation, it's an interesting way of like how to do it, because do you want to preserve games as they were? Do you want to preserve games in a state that is playable in modern setups? Do you want to like keep games afloat but continually update them for modern generations? Like, we've seen so many different interpretations of that. For example, you could take the game that people loved back in 2000 and make it worse and call it Warcraft 3 Reforged.
Okay, I was like, is he talking about Warcraft 3?
It's talking about Warcraft 3.
I was like, which one is he going to?
You can take games and remaster them, give them a facelift, and release them for new consoles. So, like in the Nintendos, releasing like Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, which you can't get now on the
3D
Switch.
All-Stars.
Fuck. Or you have the good old games approach, which is like in its original incarnation, before they got into bed with CD Projekt Red and became the one true home of Geralt of Rivia. Their whole shtick was that they were focused on the preservation of good old games. And so, like, if you look at their catalog, they have a lot of shit from the 90s, a lot of shit from the late 80s. Those were all computer games that don't exactly work anymore. Like, literally, the software language has completely changed, and thus you cannot get them to run in a current state. So Good Old Games has an approach where a lot of the games that they host are not the games that were released back in the 90s. They were games that now have modern tweaks to the code to get them to run on modern computers. So, for example, games like Ultima, which require DOSBox knowledge in order to operate.
Damn.
Now you can just pop it into a modern computer and have it somewhat work. Games like Planescape Torment, regardless of whether or not you bought the enhanced edition, which is basically just an upscale of textures and a bunch of, modern conveniences. If you just go for the original Planescape Torment, like I did, one of the best CRPGs of all time, if you run it, it actually can kind of work, regardless of whether or not you bought like the original CD-ROM, which if you plugged it to a computer, wouldn't be the same result.
What does the C stand for?
The RPG?
Yeah.
Computer RPG.
Oh, okay. I was like, what is the C? Like, I was like, is this a niche, like, Canadian RPGs? Like, damn. Fucking BioWare's got that on lock.
No, so, like, this was back in the days when, like, an RPG was known for being not the tabletop version, but a computerized version of the tabletop. So it was a CRPG instead of a tabletop RPG. And so, like, I really appreciate what Good Old Games does in that style. It's kind of morphed into something new. They released their own platform called GOG Galaxy, right around the time that everyone was bringing out their own platforms, like Origin, like Uplay.
Fuck Uplay.
Fuck Uplay, exactly. And GOG Galaxy was released. Yes, I actually enjoy GOG Galaxy. It's got some good library, and it runs smoothly. It's not a abysmal RAM-eating mess like Origin. It's not Uplay. It's actually pretty functional. It makes me wonder, as far as GOG goes, because they've shifted their focus out to balancing like modern games as well. Like, I remember back when The Witcher 3 was launched, GOG was constantly running sales on it and promoting it as like the one true platform where you could get Witcher 3 for
they
a
still
computer.
Run sales on that constantly.
Yes, they've got a deep, long-standing relationship with CD Projekt Red. It's also the first place where I found Cyberpunk sales rather than Steam, and like that was kind of the niche of GOG. What I kind of wonder, and what I wanted to pitch out to you guys is that enough? Is this the best that we can do as far as preservation of computer games? Can we find a way to get them running in spots where they're originally intended? Like, I want to know what these games were like back out in olden times when they came out on multiple CDs and I had to plug them in one at a time into the disc tower. I want to know what it was like to have floppy drives. But I'm also a modern gamer. I don't want all of those things. I just want to be able to run this from a desktop client. And as such, I'm not getting the old games as they were. I'm getting them with all of the fixes and patches that modern gamers have attached to them. Is that preservation of these pieces of work?
So you pretty much want it like there's an option where you click run like shit mode. And it runs like shit.
I don't think that that's personally the best option. I think that GOG is a pretty decent way of handling that. But as an art form, is this the best that we can do as far as preserving old games, is rely on independent storefronts like GOG to host them with all of the modern conveniences attached? Like, is there merit to having an old computer game running exactly the way it did back in the 90s for commenting on, what it was like to run this game back in the 90s? Or are these modern conveniences necessary in order to get it to people?
I think it is necessary. Like, Blizzard, when they released Warcraft 3, they took off old Warcraft 3. You can't get that now. So, someone like GOG is like, hey, well, here's Warcraft 3 with all their DLC for less than what Blizzard was charging before. I think that's awesome. I do think devs should try to preserve their own games, though. I don't think stuff should be lost to history. That's
not like it should be on shitty. it should be on like the onus of like the developers of the studio, of the publishing house to like maintain their own record, not necessarily. I get that.
I think so, but obviously they don't do that, so I think GOG is a very necessary thing to have.
Well, so here's another thing that comes to mind. Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
I was just gonna say, like with Dark Souls Remastered, when that came out on Steam, they took off Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition, and being a computer port, it was huge with mods. And the reason Dark Souls lasted as long as it did on PC was because the mods. People would completely recreate the game, and there's so many different ways to play now. There's a randomizer mod, there's a fog gate randomizer, there's Scorched Contract, which every boss adds different stipulations and adds in some of the cut content as new content, and it's like that's why it lasted so long. But when they took off Prepare to Die and only had Dark Souls Remastered, all those mods
went away,
didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So all those creators then had to either decide, what do we do? Do we rebuild it or let it go? And people were pissed because a lot of the mods made Prepare to Die fucking better than Remastered was.
Yep.
Yeah, but is that something that this studio can actually take responsibility for? Like, that's by definition not their content. That's not their game. That's other people messing around with the files. Like, how much do studios have to owe to their modding community? I would argue for some cases like Bethesda, they owe a lot to that modding community. FromSoft, I don't know if they have the same debt.
Pretty sure Bethesda releases games by just saying, whatever, the community will fix it.
Yeah, Bethesda's gotten way too reliant upon. Yeah, it just works.
And if it doesn't, you guys will fucking fix it.
Yeah.
Well, I just, like, I think that, put out Dark Souls Remastered, but don't remove being able to play. Like, don't completely remove Dark Souls Prepare to Die. And, like, it's not like they bricked old copies of Prepare to Die. You could still play them, but you just know there was no way to get it anymore. Kind of like what happened with PT.
Yeah.
Don't remind me of PT.
Yeah, if I can throw out a alternative that did work out, as I was talking about CRPGs and Planescape Torment, the company Beamdog made a bunch of cock RPGs.
I'm in. I'm fucking in. Let's go.
In other words, so there was a bunch of enhanced editions that came out. Yes, for Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment, a bunch of these old D&D properties had enhanced editions released, which were seen as the definitive way to run the modern games. But they didn't remove the old ones from the store. Like, you could still go out and buy the version on GOG of Planescape Torment that was there before this enhanced edition came out, which I thought was a nice touch. What is unfortunate, however, are the games that are lost to history, not because the publisher didn't want to own them anymore, but because licensing fucked up. So, like, for example, Bruce, you brought up Link no longer being available in Soul Calibur 2 because the licensing deal expired. EA has a bunch of Lord of the Rings games that have been lost to time because the licensing expired and nobody's bothered to renew that agreement.
Marvel games as well. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Deadpool, a lot of the old Spider-Man games, X-Men games.
Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim, up until recently, was lost.
Fucking, I was on YouTube, and in my recommendations, MVC2 tier lists came up, and they were like a week old, and that's crazy that people are still talking about MVC2 when there's been MVC3 and Infinite.
I think they want to forget Infinite.
Yeah, Infinite was shit.
Everybody wants to forget Infinite.
Yeah.
So another thing I've been thinking of is, like, because when you introduced this topic, you mentioned, like, do we preserve them as they are or as they were? And aside from, like, director's cuts kind of thing, this is one of the only mediums where you don't really get like an update there. There's a few notable examples. The first one being, like, you can buy Shakespeare now, and it explains the stuff on the side of the page. That is, it's the same work, but it's a different edition. It's a quality of life fix. It's not the same thing you read before, or like translations of epics and things like that. The other example is, coming back to a series 10 years later and saying that such and such character was gay the whole time and being a TERF. But like, games are the only medium where you really see widespread updates like that, because not like, yeah, there's director's cuts, but a lot of authors don't update their books like that unless they're pieces of shit who are trying to be billionaires and against trans women.
Yeah. Well, like, I think about, like,
JK.
I hear a lot of people comment about live service games right now, and I see a lot of comparisons come out to Vanilla Destiny. And I'm like, you can't touch Vanilla Destiny anymore. Like, it's just gone, and nobody's really clamoring for it to come back. But, like, in this sort of, like, sense of, like, ongoing, like, games as narrative, how the industry is evolving, it would be nice to see what exactly people are talking about. Because of the nature of that sort of game, it's no longer a thing. You can't go back to it. The horse has gone out to pasture.
Yeah, but in 10 years we'll get Destiny Classic.
This is true. But, like, I think it's especially...
don't you mean Destiny Collection?
Oh, God. Yeah, probably. I think it's specific shame with live service games, because I think more than anything, like, rely on this sense of continual improvement. Yet for people that come late to the process, they'll never understand what was so bad that needed fixing. And, like, that's a good thing for the consumer, but, like, from the state of, like, how do we learn as an industry, that's a shame.
And I think, like, a good thing that, like, movies do is they release a director's cut, but you can still watch the original version on the same disc. It's like with Dark Souls, there is no reason to get rid of the original. Just release the remaster and have the original on it, too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know necessarily that much that the remaster did, other than just get rid of the old Link.
Yeah.
Because that was a remaster that didn't do shit. As far as the game itself.
They brought Blighttown from 10 frames to 15, motherfucker.
Ooh.
I can hate it all the faster now.
Those 5 frames make a difference in Blighttown.
It's true. It goes from being an unplayable mess to just being a mess. Concession for Bruce. I'm happy.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more thing was, like, there are communities that are somewhat niche, and, like, even niche in a niche, who specifically, like, don't update their game. A lot of speedruns, for example, they won't, like, they'll have different leaderboards for different patches of a game, because nowadays certain skips and glitches and exploits will be patched out. So the people who want to continue running, like, the 1.0 version are then segmented from, like, the 1.1 because there's a wrong warp or something. So there is precedent of people keeping older files alive of the original intent, but that's not huge. Like, I'm sure, like, I don't even know where I'd go to find a launch edition of Final Fantasy 15 that includes the original Chapter 13. Like, I don't know if I'd want to, but if I did, because I felt like, being a masochist, like, do you find that?
I can loan it to you.
Jesus.
I mean, pretty much you just put it in your game and don't update it.
Fair. But now they're selling the Royal Edition, which
Yes.
is all the DLC and updates. Can you still find a regular, like, launch day one edition that wasn't pre-patched?
Probably, but it's going to be used, and it's up in the air if you're
Yeah.
buying the correct version.
Well,
You have to
and
hope
that's
you know someone
exactly it.
that,
And then,
like me, that bought it day one and would give it to you.
and then
Seems
you
like
get
so-
private sale through used game stores, but then you're paying like $100 for it.
Yep.
Well, it makes me think like all services should have the same thing that Steam does, where you can opt back into old beta programs and like download the version of the game that you want to play. Like would always do that, for example, with Crusader Kings 2. Whenever there was an update that came out and it bricked all of my favorite mods, I wouldn't stop playing the game. I would just roll back the update to the one that worked with all my mods and just keep playing that until the mods were updated. Like that was a nice convenience that PC gaming offered. You don't see that in a lot of other venues for gaming.
Like, well, yeah, because PC as a platform is meant for people who want to tinker, and consoles just plug and play. But I think the part that people don't say with that is consoles being plug and play. It's because of the expectation that you're a mouth breather and you don't know how to do these things.
Yeah.
But nowadays, like, I have this thing called DuckDuckGo in my pocket, and I can find out anything.
Yeah.
Was that just a random shout out that you did?
Yeah, fuck Google.
It's nice. We really got to keep our options open as far as sponsorships go. Like, throw out 1,000 hooks a day. Eventually, you'll catch a fish.
Or we catch 1,000 copyright strikes.
You know where you can catch a fish? Plentyoffish.com.
Very nice.
Damn it.
And if you do end up catching a fish on plentyoffish.com, you might need some adult toys from Adam and Eve.
Yeah. Very good. We see that Bruce has been contemplating this a lot. Bruce, are you lonely? Have you been talking to your cat recently?
I'm very lonely. I always talk to my cat, and OnlyFans is the future.
And any other promotions you want to throw out there?
Not promotions, but I am a fan of PC.
Thought that your wallet is too large and bulky? Well, the Ridge wallet would help you cut down on that.
Jesus. I was looking on PC Gamer earlier today, and they had an article that I thought was interesting for this topic of game preservation. It's what games would you throw in a modern time capsule? And so I kind of wanted to throw that out to you guys. Like, of the past 10, 15 years of the industry, what games would you say are like the things that future generations need to know about? What would you put in your personal time capsule?
Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, sure. Fuck you for the joke because it's awesome.
No, I'm just making fun of Bruce. I know it's a good game.
I was gonna say, I mean, the obvious one that I would say is Breath of the Wild, but I do think that aside from just me being a stan of Zelda, does deserve a spot there. But also, I would do Minecraft Beta and Minecraft 1.16. I do both versions of it, so people can see the conception and then the finished product pre-Microsoft buyout.
Honestly, it's always fun watching a game go from like a beta to like where it is now.
Yeah,
I mean, watching like the growth of a game.
I mean, that's kind of the beauty of like the early access titles that are successes, is that you get a chance to kind of be there like from beginning to end. Like, I'm a big fan of The Longest Dark. I ordered that game back when it first came out in early access, and like I recently jumped back into it. Now that's a full like thing you can purchase for any major system, and like has a story mode and everything. And it's like, Jesus.
There's a story mode in that game?
There's a story mode. There are challenges. There's like.
I want to make sure that is the game where you're set in the northern Canadian wilderness. Right?
Yep.
Okay, just confirming, because I just didn't know there was a story mode to that. That's cool.
It's kind of janky. The cutscenes are good attempts, but no, it's actually like a really impressive showing for an indie studio, and like for somebody who was following with it from like beginning to end, that would be pretty cool to like show off to future generations. Like, hey, this is how an early access game should be run.
Now, you had specifically said modern games. I'm still thinking of some. What's like your cutoff for modern? Are we saying post-millennia? Or are we saying like post-decade?
Oh, 2008.
2008? Yeah, I'd stick with Minecraft and Breath of the Wild. The reason I was asking was because I know I haven't played it, but you've told me enough. I was going to say something like Jade Empire.
say that I want this specific generation to focus on like everything that like changed once digital distribution became so much more prevalent than it is now. So like, not
Dark
from
Souls.
came about. Like that's what my cutoff is for like what the current modern generation is of video games. Aaron, what about yours? Like top games that you would want to show off to people in 20 years from now?
I'd say like Mass Effect, just so they can see that story's gone to shit since that fucking released. It's just like, hey, this is what you could have had.
This is what you could have had, yeah. Yeah, I would do like the Mass Effect trilogy as well. I think that would be that's like a game franchise that defined a lot of this generation, and then we haven't seen anything like it since. Like it kind of like began and killed the same craze for RPGs.
I haven't played it, but I think both of you have. Would you put God of War 4 in there?
Like the PlayStation version?
God of War 4.
Is there another version?
You know this, Bruce. It exists. It has a multiplayer mode and everything.
That's God of War Ascension. That's set in between.
Yeah, that's a pre-sequel.
All right, fine. Well, I would say God of War PS4 is really, really good. I don't know if I would put it in the time capsule. I think a lot of its impact is because we all grew up with God of War, and like it was interesting to see a franchise that took itself very, is like a matter of camp and cartoonishness suddenly become adult oriented and like actually mature. I don't know if the impact would be the same on like people that grew up without that context.
Yeah, I think that game's different for us because it was like a mature game that wasn't really treated like with mature concepts, and we got to watch that evolve into something that dealt with mature stuff.
Yeah, like we watched Kratos turn from superhero like antagonist to like an actual person.
Yeah. Okay, you guys can either keep going and I'll be right back, or you can vamp and I'll edit it out. But I'll be right back because I'm about to die.
Bruce had to go shit himself. What else would I put in?
I do like Arkham Asylum. I think that was defining as far as how it changed the perception of licensed properties in games. Like it went from like you can't do a good movie tie-in game to like, okay, superhero games are decent, to like, oh my god, this is
there can be a good superhero game.
This is one of the best games of the year, let alone superhero game.
Yeah.
I'd also say Arkham Asylum was the start of the games that make you feel like X. Christ.
Yeah. No, yeah, that definitely should go in. I know we hate Bethesda, but I think like Fallout 3 should go in.
Yeah.
That was just to what maybe it wouldn't be the same feeling for a future generation. Because for us to watch a game evolve from like top down to like this first person RPG.
I almost feel like Skyrim, if we're going to include anything off of Bethesda's catalog, I think there's a reason that Skyrim is as remade and remastered. Maybe that's the thing, though, is that they don't need it to be put in a time capsule because they'll still be playing Skyrim.
Yeah, what are you talking about? In 20 years, it's going to be re-released again.
Yeah, no, okay, I agree with you that Fallout 3, definitely. I mean, like, that was another one of those moments where, like, the whole industry shifted, because Fallout 3 was a unapologetically gory, violent, and kind of like, I wasn't serious, but it felt serious back in 2008.
Yeah.
Like, back then, it seemed like a big revelation to have a game like that be as popular as it was.
Actually, Little Big Planet, I think. That's a game with like its creation tools.
I feel like it never took off in the way that I expected it to, but maybe
it
it's
really
because
should have. Like,
yeah,
I don't get why it didn't.
Well, like I feel like Little Big Planet, Dreams are both attempts to like capitalize on like the level creator idea and give that out to the people, but I feel like they've never hit the same spot that something like Mario Maker, for example, has hit. Like Mario Maker is insane in terms of the community that developed around it.
Yeah, I think Mario, just because it's like such a well-known thing, everyone's like, "Ooh, I want that."
Well, I also think it's a bit like was the Wii U touchpad. I think was actually like instrumental in making that first Mario Maker like really popular with people
Yeah.
because it was so easy to build levels. Whereas like Little Big Planet, like there still had to be a little bit of like finesse to make something that was interesting.
Yeah. And Dreams, I think that could have taken off, but they decided to release it right before the PS5.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of was never talked about again.
Yeah, I didn't even know it released until I saw YouTubers putting up videos of them going through it. Like
I've
I had
seen
no idea what it
amazing
was.
things out of that, but
Mm. Well, that's the thing with any sort of like let's give the let's give the content tools to the people is that without properly showcasing it, it kind of goes by the wayside super quickly.
yeah.
Like say all we want again about Bethesda, but their creation club has at least managed to showcase mods and like keep those mod creators in the community and like given a spotlight. I think it's shit that the idea to monetize them, but that's its own thing.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that they did that.
Yeah. First it was pay for horse armor, now it's pay for the things that you could download for free. Oof. Big oof.
What else?
I feel like Mass Effect is my BioWare pick. I would do
Yeah.
Witcher 3 just because it feels like a meme not to, but like also it's really
True.
good.
Um,
I wonder if you could include Witcher 3 and then on the back of the box Cyberpunk just to be like the beginning and end of CD Projekt Red's domination of the market.
oh fuck, then we need like Anthem or Dragon Age 2 in the time capsule.
H2 still breaks my heart. It is like the biggest example of like wasted potential thanks to rush deadlines that I've seen yet in a major studio release. Like Knights of the Old Republic 2 released in 11 months. Shame that happened. Still a great game. New Vegas. Shame that all the development shenanigans went on with that game, but still a great game. Dragon Age 2 could have been something, and they fucked it because it was only given 13 months to finish.
You're right. If we're throwing in the Mass Effect trilogy, we need Andromeda in there as well. Hey, so here's these 3 great games, and here's this one really shitty one that shows why we hate BioWare now.
Well, it's just like I found the development of Andromeda a very interesting story to listen to because going through it, it always seems like BioWare games start out with this idea that they're going to throw out everything that made BioWare famous to do something completely different. Like they're never satisfied with what they got. Like Mass Effect originally started out with this idea of like we're going to do like procedural generated planets and you can explore a whole universe and like run around with your friends. Like that was the original concept for Mass Effect, and they dropped it because of the technical limitations. Then that was the concept for Andromeda, but they dropped it because the team couldn't get its focus squared away. Like
I'm pretty sure the concept for Andromeda was, hey, what if we make a new Mass Effect with the original team? And they're like, oh no, let's just give it to the D team. That's fine. That's how that one changed from the original idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of apologetic for them because I feel like the game was rigged against them from the start, but also they made their own stupid ideas and decisions.
It was rigged against them from the start, but I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't give one of your top franchises to a brand new team.
Yeah,
It's not even like your B team; it's like your D team.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that it could have worked had they just shared resources properly,
Yes.
or had they not been forced to work with an engine that was not made for what they were trying to make it for. I don't know what
they gave it to their D team with a bunch of scraps and like you make a game out of this.
Yeah, like make the next brand new chapter of this Mass Effect franchise with a box of scraps.
Can we have a new engine, please? No.
Yeah,
this one works fine. We made the other 3 Mass Effects on it.
No, they didn't. It was made with Frostbite.
Oh, fuck.
Frostbite, the engine that's famously could not allow you to save games in the way that an RPG needs you to save games. Like Frostbite is made good for making shit look pretty, and for good explosion textures. It's not good for an RPG.
Isn't that the engine for Crisis?
It's the Crisis. Crytek is the engine for Crisis.
Yeah, fuck. What am I saying? I just hear Kyra. Yeah. Oh my god,
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
Frostbite is the engine for Battlefield, and EA went to say, we want BioWare to make all of its new games on Frostbite. So you have to start basically from the ground up to rebuild Frostbite into something that can handle the basics of saving, accessing an inventory, having a dialogue system, saving, because it bears mentioning that that's pretty fucking important for an RPG. And like, yeah, so Mass Effect Andromeda was made with Frostbite. So was Dragon Age Inquisition.
On a shooter fucking engine.
Yeah, both games that basically had to spend the first 2 years of the development just making it have all the functionality that something like Unreal Engine already had. Like, that's what the Mass Effect trilogy was made on, was Unreal, and they worked fine. No real technical issues there.
I feel like you're frustrated now.
Oh, it's just, bro, I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. I know the hits.
Poor Bethesda. Fuck, oh my god, what am I saying? Poor BioWare. You know, Bethesda's shit too. Fuck them.
Yep. Western game development down the toilet. I don't know if I would put like the Kingdom Hearts franchise in there. I don't know. Well, like, given the cutoff that we established, the only Kingdom Hearts that you could put in there would be Kingdom Hearts 3. I almost kind of want to do it because Kingdom Hearts 3 is such a clusterfuck that, like, watch this and understand what we were trying to understand for 10 years.
Yeah, you know, you throw that other kids like, I don't understand this. That's the point. I haven't played the other games. Doesn't matter. You won't understand it anyways.
Trust me, nobody played the other games. They had to do, like, what was it? Like, there was a 3DS one, there was a DS one, 2DS games, I think, one for the Game Boy.
Yeah, so it went Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories for Game Boy Advance, Kingdom Hearts 2, then a remake of the Game Boy Advance game, then it went 358 over 2 days on the DS, then it went Birth by Sleep on the PSP, then it went Coded on the DS, then it went Dream Drop Distance on the 3DS, then it went the remaster of all those games.
Wasn't there Coded or something for the phone too? Like, you needed a Android to run.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Coded was on the phone, and then they remade it for the DS. And then we had a phone game. Actually, no, it started as a web browser game. Then it was a phone game. Then it was remade as another phone game. And then we had another collection that had a movie in it and another, like, 3-hour game. And then Kingdom Hearts 3. It's confusing just talking about the systems it's on.
Throw out the time capsule idea. We are just making a time capsule for the Kingdom Hearts franchise.
Oh, fuck. I forgot how bad that is.
We'll put it in a crate, seal it up with chains, write with red spray paint, Nomura did this to me, and bury it in the backyard.
This is why I have crippling depression.
Damn.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. What's the most obscure game that you would still want to put in the time capsule?
Ooh.
There was a game for the 360 that I loved called Frontlines Fuel of War. It was a very bad Battlefield knockoff. It had a lot of fun elements to it, though, and like for this day, I still remember vividly the reloading animation. It's like just crammed in there in terms of nostalgia, and like, I kind of want to revisit it and, like, introduce people to it and say, like, it's the great, you know, this was the big shooter craze of the 2010s. And just, like, assume that people will never tell the difference between it and Battlefield.
Bruce, you missed me explaining all the systems.
I forgot to turn my...
I
forgot to turn my speakers on, so I couldn't hear anything. And the only thing I managed to hear was... Back to that time capsule idea. What about a time capsule just for the Kingdom Hearts franchise?
Yeah, so you missed me.
Fuck no, let that franchise die.
Because Braden mentioned I want to throw a Kingdom Hearts game in there, but it would only be 3. And it turned into me explaining every system that they're on and like the release order. And that in itself is confusing as fuck.
Yep, you need 3 different handheld consoles, 2 console generations, and a phone in order to experience the entire Kingdom Hearts. Oh, and a DVD player.
Oh no, the movie was included as part of the.
Oh.
Fuck.
So I'm glad you guys took care of the bonus segment for this week. Now that we've had dessert, do we want to go back to dinner and
can't just put Braden into a bonus section because you have to go take a shit?
No, the Kingdom Hearts thing is a bonus section explaining all the different consoles.
You want to release a whole bonus episode of like a minute of me talking?
No, it's just like bonus inside this.
Oh,
no,
I guess so.
Fuck it.
It's an Easter
Go
egg.
ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead,
No,
Bruce. What are you getting to? What's the jib of your jibe?
I think he wants me to go now.
I want him to go now. That's what I said.
Before that, last game for the time capsule, I say would be Smash Ultimate, just because like we will never see a fighting game with so many characters from different franchises ever again.
Or as many people like falling on their knees and like thanks for it being even released. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen people get emotional over a fighting game,
And
but
then
like that was. I was there when that hit. Bruce and I were up like late nights playing that game, fucking nonstop.
This is true. We did in fact like run like a pseudo smash for a little bit because every night there was a different group of people coming over to play Ultimate in our place. And the only reason I call it a pseudo smash is because Too Many Cooks, one of the top players in Alberta, used to show up at our place to play Smash with us, and he adds legitimacy. What's that?
And he kicked your ass over and over.
Fuck yeah.
Without question.
Fuck yeah.
In the grand scheme of Smash players at my place, it goes the following: Too Many Cooks, Bruce's friend Brian, my friend Christian, Bruce, dogs, the fly that landed on the controller and moved things, and then right down near the bottom is me.
Don't forget though the big gap between me and Christian, because I'm dog shit at this game.
Yeah, no, shout out my friends, because you guys are crazy.
Yeah, I know you're dog shit because you just pick Sephiroth like, ha ha ha, I'm so good now.
He's viable.
I start beating Bruce and he's like, okay, that means I have to play Sephiroth now. I can't win, pick the DLC character.
Yeah.
If my character can't cut it, drop him, get a new main.
Yeah. I will say that the character that is in that game that still feels like a DLC character, despite being in the game since launch, King K. Rool, baby, never die.
Fuck.
Broken till the day he dies.
So,
Aaron, what's your secret topic?
Speaking of playing games with friends and stuff, I wanted to have a positive topic about like all the friends we've made while playing games. Just because I've been playing Rust, and I made a friend yesterday, and it was so much fun.
God damn.
Yeah, no, I love this guy so much that I said, fuck my topic. Let's talk about him and other friends that we've made.
You want to give him a little shout out?
Yeah, Epic Fool 1245 in Rust and Discord. I love you. I hope you're still building up our base right now.
I have been watching some of these Rust streams, and I have heard Epic's name quite a few times. So like, I'm glad this is wholesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rust is known for being a notoriously toxic as fuck game, and we went in there with like the mindset of we're just gonna be toxic and we're gonna do so well that we can just be toxic to everyone. And I happened to just went to this island. I'm like, I'm just gonna mine shit, whatever. And I find this dude just like, hello. I'm like, hi. You want to go on a run with me? I'm like, sure. Where? like to this gas station. I'm like, I don't have any weapons, but yeah, sure. He's like, you know what? I'll make you a bunch of stuff. And if we die, it's okay because it's my stuff. I'm like, what an awesome, wholesome person. And we ended up going there. I brought another friend along, and we came back with a lot of shit. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And we went our merry ways. And like 3 hours later, I'm like, I'm bored. I'm gonna go find that guy. So I spent like half an hour looking for him till I eventually, I was in a cave with another friend, and I just hear this voice echo through the cave say, yo, who's there? I'm like, it's your friend. Like, who the fuck are you? Like, oh, killed me on the inside, but eventually he's like, oh yeah, you went to the gas station with me. And we went on another run to the gas station? I don't know. I don't remember. I played a lot of Rust. I played 16 hours of Rust in the past, like, 2 days. So it's all one big jamble of memories. And after that, the guy, like, joined our group, and we, like, built a fortress. And today we spent an hour and a half trying to raid a fucking airfield because we just kept forgetting stuff. And we just sat in a room together for, like, half an hour waiting for people to bring stuff so we get into a room. It was a horrible heist. Yeah, first it started with us going there. We didn't have so it takes, like, you need a fuse put into the fuse box and use a key card to, like, enter this area. Well, we forgot the fuse because my friend watched a video and the guy didn't have a fuse. It's like, we don't need one. So I got killed by an attack helicopter. So then, naked, I'm running across the land with a fuse. We finally get inside. And guess what? You need another fucking fuse. So we, like, Epic Fool came back on, and another friend, and they had to run across the land with the fuse. But when Epic Fool got there with the fuse, the guy that was with me went outside with our key card, and he died and lost the key card. So then the other friend had to go get a new key card and the fuse and come all the way back here because they needed another fuse to get inside. And it was just a nice, fun, wholesome experience. And I want to hear about your guys' experiences making friends or just playing with friends. It's going to be nice and wholesome. Or you can shit talk first. I don't care.
No, it's so good. I was a big fan of the...
Shut the fuck up, Bruce. I'm listening to Braden.
Sorry,
wait.
Bruce.
Sorry. This was supposed to be wholesome. Bruce, I respect what you were going to say, but I think Braden was talking first, so I want to hear him. And please cut out any toxicity I had in my moment of weakness.
Please go back and re-edit that sequence. So I really enjoyed the game Journey that came out PlayStation 3 and then got a remaster for PlayStation 4. Journey is one of several games that does the style of co-op where people will just drift in and out of your expedition, and you won't have many means of communicating with each other other than just little chirps and whistles, but it's like a nice time, and you will find people just jumping around outside in the dunes, and you have to solve puzzles, so like they'll help you solve puzzles. You kind of adventure around each other. Oh, there's a cute little sequence where you all are everywhere. You and the co-op partner that you've randomly stumbled across have to ski down a hill, and you're like doing their best to do like tricks and stuff, and you're chirping all the while with each other. Oh no, there's this big underground monster that comes up and scans the area, and you'll see it attack your friend, and you'll be like, "Oh!" There's a part where your character and this random co-op partner, who again, you have no identifying marks. They're just another random scarf person that you've stumbled across out in the game world. Have to climb up a mountain, and you're constantly losing energy. But the easiest way to recover energy is by huddling up to each other for warmth and sharing energy between each other. At the very end of the game, there is a sequence where you guys step through this golden passageway and end the sequence. But the sand leading up to that is nice and like freshly set, so that player characters often create little symbols and such in the sand. The most common one, as determined by a survey conducted by the game makers, was a heart that people left for each other on their way out. I thought it was going to
penis.
I know. That's what you expect. But people,
It's like, yes,
But-
he's gonna say penis.
no, people were making little hearts for each other at the end of this 2-hour journey that they experienced with a total stranger. And like that to me is just like beautiful multiplayer experience where you don't know who this person is. You will never play game with them again unless you choose to look up their PSN after the credits roll and you see it featured of all the people that you met in the journey. But for the most part, you won't. But you'll share that magical 2-hour block of time where you two went on a journey together. And I fondly look back at those as like my favorite moments where just you met total strangers in a video game, but you managed to create something beautiful as a result.
It's so wholesome. I love it.
I know, it was such a good fucking game. And then there was Draconian Warrior.
I don't know if I can follow that up. Oh
That's
God,
okay.
Draconian Warrior! Why? God damn it! This is supposed to be wholesome. Why would you bring up Draconian Warrior?
Well, I need to know this now.
Flip side, Bruce and I were playing Ghost of Tsushima Legends recently, and we match made into a random lobby with two people. One who is wholesome and like good at the game, and another whose tag name was Draconian Warrior.
That Ronin was so good. He was like, he and I were like doing the same shit and like playing off each other. I was like, this is my homie. And then there was Draconian Warrior.
That's it. Not a good time.
I'm so sorry that you didn't have a wholesome experience.
It was still an amazing experience where, without any words being exchanged, I grew to intensely dislike this person just because of several things in the game. But you know what? I was having a great time anyway. It was something about the way that they picked targets, that they couldn't stand up in a field without getting knocked down by like a gentle breeze. Just it says
The way they spelt their name.
Yeah. It says the bonus objective in the screen. Everybody knows what you have to do to get the bonus objective. Fucking this guy didn't.
Maybe he didn't want the bonus objective.
Makes me mad, but still, like, Ghost of Tsushima has a lot of great tools for communicating with strangers non-verbally. So if you don't want to hop into voice chat, and a lot of people don't, you could still, like, ping things and communicate with your team. You can still, like, have lots of situations that encourage cooperation, but it's evident what you have to do, so you don't have to, like, really worry about coordinating things. Like, it's a great multiplayer experience in that it gets you to cooperate and have fun with total strangers without needing all the bells and whistles of, like, actually talking with each other, which sometimes you just don't want to do.
Everybody standing in a line playing their flutes is the most wholesome. So like because of coronavirus and lockdown and everything, like there's lots of examples I think all of us have of just like gaming with the homies and having some fun while apart. But for like meeting people through games, when I was a young teen and tween, I played World of Warcraft, and it was one of my friends who got me into it. And this was the age where a bunch of people were, we were 12, 13, 14, where like when your friends start to move away from your hometown. And so he moved, but we kept up with each other through World of Warcraft. This was also like 2008, so like cell phones weren't ubiquitous. So we would stay in contact by World of Warcraft. Like we'd get a call, hey, in Ventrilo, let's do some dungeons or something. But through this, we started like doing pickup groups and everything, and we met another person who we started to play with, and eventually we got comfortable with them and like gave names and everything. And turns out he was another guy our age, and we are in northern Alberta, and this guy's living in BC. And so there's us, like 13, 14-year-old kid, another 13, 14-year-old guy in like a province over from us. And he became part of our group. And like if I couldn't play, then my buddy would play with the guy from BC. Vice versa. Like instead of it just being me and my friend being a two-party team, we became a three-party team. and like, or just would mix and match amongst ourselves. And I think that was one of my favorite experiences of like making an actual friend through a game. And then as an adult, I think the only really standout time I've made a friend through a game was when I started getting into Soulsborne, because I had looked up all the lore for like Bloodborne. I was super depressed, as most people are when they start getting into Soulsborne.
Oh, I thought you meant in general.
Right? But I started looking up all of the lore, and I was like, because I'd never played one, because I thought they'd be too hard for me. And I was like, wow, Bloodborne's really cool. Like this lore is really cool. And then, you know, I sat on that for a while.
Can I pause you for a second? Where the fuck you get that sandwich from? You just have that there the entire time?
That's a great question.
Like, was it just sitting there? Did someone bring it to you? Where did it come from? It's been like an hour. It's been an hour and 40 minutes. Holy fuck. Where did you get this sandwich from?
Remember when I had to step out for a bit? It was for a delivery.
You were not that quick to bring him a sandwich. I want an answer for this by the end of the podcast. I want a fucking definitive answer by the end of this podcast. Bruce, you can continue.
Okay, so I got into Soulsborne, like Bloodborne, and I was like, this is dope. And then in university, I met Brayden, and he and I, like, we didn't know each other. We met through some writing clubs, and everybody who knows the story knows I fucking hated this guy when I met him. I had never felt so emasculated in my life because I was like, I like to write. I like to do art. It's really cool. And then this motherfucker shows up to my writing group and is just like, oh, I have a piece I'd like to share that I wrote during our free write of the past 15 minutes. And it just blew my fucking mind. I was like, this guy's a piece of shit.
Fuck this guy.
I was like, I'm 22 and I don't know how to handle this. And I was like, fuck this guy. Then over time, like, you know, I had to deal with him. And then he posted something in a communal chat that was like, hey, I've been writing this play. Does anybody want to read it for me and like proofread? And I was like, let's fucking see what he can do. So I said, yes.
I'm going to judge you so hard. I'm going to point out everything wrong.
So then we met for a year and talked about it. But then he had to cancel because he was busy. So then we postponed.
So you're like, fuck this guy for canceling on me.
So we ended up out for a beer one night, and instead of actually talking about his spec script, or just script, I guess it wasn't even a spec script, I was just like, yeah, like I kind of want to start playing Bloodborne, and then we just delved into it, and he was like, oh yeah, you should come over sometime, and we should just have beers and play Bloodborne and like die a bunch, and it'll be fun. And the first time I showed up at his house, like since then, like, man, I love this man, and went from like knowing each other, and then like 6 months later, not even, we're best friends and living together. And I think that's the most wholesome like gaming interaction I have, just because like we had one thing in common, writing, and then we found another thing, which was like eldritch horror, Lovecraft. And then it was just like, hey, what about all these other things? And every reference one of us made, the other would understand. And it was just like, it was just magic. So I have gaming to thank for like my best friend. So
Brayden was probably like, you know what, this guy's pretty cool. And all the while you're like, fuck this fucking guy.
Oh, he knows. He knows.
It's funny.
God damn it, Bruce.
Yeah, I've told him.
Man, jumping in and playing Bloodborne, like the first like time, it was like fun, and then he got better than me at the game, and I got really resentful, and then he beat all the bosses in the DLC before I even touched it. I was super mad about it. It took me like half a year to even attempt Orphan of Cause.
Now you know how Bruce felt.
It was like the shoes on the other foot. Yeah. Wholesome.
It was really funny.
Around.
Like, because I remember waking up one day and I was like, man, I've got like it's the last day of summer vacation before like semester starts in uni again, and I have like 4 bosses left in Bloodborne. But like that's gonna take me the rest of the semester because I'm gonna have so little time to game. Let's just see how far. And then I beat the game that day, and like Brayden woke up and saw me playing, and I was like, "Dude, I have 2 bosses left." And he just watched, and he was like, "Good job, man. That's really cool." But the whole time was like, fuck this guy. And I was like, wow, I beat all these bosses on my first try. And he's like, cool, yeah, they're so easy.
Lights the apartment on fire.
Oh my god, there was a whole thing about the first time that any of us managed to beat Lady Maria, because that fight was god awful in terms of difficulty the first time. Oh yeah, like you have no idea what you're walking into. You have no idea.
Maria's my day.
Yeah. I think that's like
there's a reason my cat's name is Ludwig.
Yeah, I think this specific right here, like the bonding over it, that's one of the best things about gaming for me, is just like being able to sit back and like talk about experiences with like difficult bosses or some shit. Like I could do this with absolute strangers and we could get along, just because like, you know, it is one of those things where, because people tend to like it, people that love video games get passionate about it. And like talking about any passion with people is like very fun anyway. But video games have like your own special like experience with it because it is interactive. So like you invest more of yourself into it, and as such your experiences become a bit more tailor-made to you. But
yeah. Did you find this Easter egg? No, I did it this way. I didn't even know that was possible. Like that kind of like shared experience is great.
Yeah. Oh man. Love you guys.
Love you too.
I mean, because we were talking about shared gaming experiences and being bros, I think this is a good time to announce some plans we've had.
No, shut the fuck up. Before that, I want to know where the sandwich came from. No,
there is no sandwich.
Yeah, there is. I can see it. I'm gonna make you edit in a circle around the sandwich every time it pops up. Or like a counter for how many times it pops up. It literally froze on my screen for a second, showing me eat that sandwich. Where did it come from? Did you have it this entire time?
I don't know if this is a big deal. It's just a sandwich, man.
I need to know. I haven't seen you move in almost 2 hours, and all of a sudden, yes.
Are you sure?
Yes. All of a sudden, there's a sandwich there.
Like,
no, I haven't seen any shadows behind you. I've seen nothing. I'm gonna analyze this footage.
Want to watch me get a sandwich? Want to watch me do it again?
You can
people
continue,
like analyzing
please.
the footage like piece by piece. Yeah, no, it's a good sandwich though.
Frame by frame. Yeah, you know what, Aaron? I will go frame by frame as I'm editing this.
Thank you.
For you. If you talk about our plans for some wholesome game streaming.
We are going to play the remaster of Scott Pilgrim. Re-release. Because it has been taken off for many years. And everyone's been very upset. And Ubisoft is like, hey, what if we do like one good thing in like our entire career? And we have Scott Pilgrim now. And we're all going to play it together. And it's going to be at the end of this month, probably. And we don't have a specific date because we haven't talked about this. This is us talking about it right now. I don't even know if Brayden really knew about this other than like casually saying before, hey, we should all play Scott Pilgrim together. And yeah, and we're going to stream it. And we'll like treat it as like a Dialog Tree episode. Not like a full podcast, but just like an episode that we'll throw on YouTube. And we'll also make it a Q&A so you guys can ask us questions either beforehand on like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and also as well as like questions live while we're doing it.
If you have my phone number, you can send me a text. I probably won't read it because I don't use text, but you can.
Yeah, sure. You can also like text us.
Do we decide now who we're playing?
Oh, I'm being Steven Stills.
Steven Stills? Aaron?
I don't care.
Yeah, Dips?
I don't
Steven
care.
Stills or Wallace Wells.
Oh, right. I forgot. Wallace is in the game. I never touched the DLC, so I didn't.
Classic
I've
Bruce
never
calling
even
dibs
Stills
on
because
DLC
the
characters.
Steven Stills because of the talent, or Wallace Wells because I think out of all of us, I have the most big gay energy.
I would argue that, but okay.
So
Alvin would disagree.
I will suck your dick right now.
Do it. I'll suck you right back.
Oh, well,
69 this.
This is gonna be the first thing on our Dialog Trees OnlyFans.
God damn it.
first and
I
only.
knew I'd find content.
Yep. Wait, do we actually have an OnlyFans?
I love that Bruce has talked about this so much that you don't know if we do or don't. And honestly, I don't know either.
Do we have a parlor? Do we have a Weebly?
Anybody have a parlor anymore?
Exactly. I guess I'll put I'll put an early claim on Scott because that's just the character I beat the game most often with, so I'm gonna play him.
Yeah,
You do
I
have some
don't
big
care.
Scott energy.
Thank you. In the sense that I'm a dickhole, or
yeah,
like, oh, okay. That's fair.
You have big Scott energy. So yeah, we're gonna be doing that. And I guess that's it. And to end, I'd like to point out that Dialog Trees is now officially on more platforms than Donald Trump.